So it's not just we're planning an event. It's a really big moment for everyone.
Brides also ask, do you think I can reuse this dress, repurpose it in some way?
We get these crazy requests. One bride asked if she could have live peacocks at the wedding.
Hello and welcome to the very first edition of the SheerLuxe Middle East Wedding Edition podcast. I am so excited to be joined by two women in the industry that are veterans in the scene. We are here with Roula Theodory and Bana Abujaber. Welcome!
Thank you for having us.
So a quick intro on both of you. Roula, you are the co-founder of Cherry on Top Events, a creative design studio producing events worldwide. We've known each other for years. I mean, I've seen some of your work. It's been a journey for you. You've been in the industry for so long. And you describe yourself as someone who is part curator and part storyteller. And you have a co-founder, Nayla, as well.
Yes.
Couldn't join us today, but she's...
My best decision in my life.
I love that. And Bana, you are a Parsons trained fashion stylist and founder of the Trousseau Wedding Platform, the bridal styling platform, redefining how women approach their wedding wardrobes. Obviously, I've given you guys your introductions, but I would love to hear from you a bit about yourselves and tell our listeners about yourselves. Roula, we'll start with you.
Perfect. I mean, Cherry on Top for me has been a labor of love. It's really been blood, sweat, and tears over the last 16 years. And I think it's a very cool space to be in. I think we are part of people's journeys, part of their stories. And I think for us, me and Nayla, it's really something that we always find very exciting. No 2 days are alike, no two couples are alike, no two weddings are alike. So for us, it's really just been a very, very special experience.
And you guys have been in the industry for almost 2 decades, which says a lot about...
It does. And every day is new, still.
Yeah.
16 years on, every day feels like it's the first day.
And Bana, tell us a bit about you.
So I started as a personal stylist here in Dubai for a few years. And it was not until I got engaged that I started, thinking about my wedding wardrobe. And even though I was in the fashion industry, I felt that the bridal world is a whole different, monster, So that's when I realized there is a gap in the market for bridal styling and started building on, Trousseau, which I launched 2023. And yeah, it's been an exciting journey, working with different brides who have different needs, different styles. Fun journey so far, and I'm excited to share more about it.
Really excited to dive into that and how your two worlds come together as well.
Absolutely, they collide.
Exactly. Where should brides and grooms look to start? How should they start? Is it the budget? Is it the venue? Is it, the capacity of people? What is it that they should start with?
That is a really great question. I think a lot of times people want a step-by-step guide, and I'm sure you can find one online. But I think the reality of it is that this trigger point or the starting point really is dependent on each couple and their circumstances. Sometimes it's date-driven. You have work commitments, education commitments, family and friends that you want to work around to make sure that they can be included. So sometimes it's just picking a date that works for them. Sometimes it's venue driven. There's a venue you've dreamt about. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's budget. So to say that it's one specific starting point, I don't think that's really accurate. But what I always say to my clients, there's that photo, that one photo that you're going to post on social media, you're going to print and frame in your house. Where is that picture? Are you in a garden? Is there a castle behind you? Are you on the beach? If you're on the beach, is there sand between your toes, or are you on a cliff overlooking the beach? Because these are all very different experiences, very different visions, very different memories. So sometimes that can be a good starting point, just thinking about what is the experience I'm hoping for, and then kind of working backwards from there.
Then I guess being, a wedding planner, you would help them in kind of guiding them to it, because I'm talking from experience.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm all over the place with the wedding planning, but I feel like when you have a planner that kind of guides you there, that's the right way to start, I would assume.
Exactly. And we are here to advise, to guide. We have years of experience and practice under our belts.
That's great. I love that. And what about you, Bana? Tell us a bit about how we start with, wedding outfits.
To add more to what both of you were saying, it really depends for each client. I always tell my brides that not to freak out, if you come to me with no Pinterest boards, no idea, we can work together to kind of shape your vision. And then you have other brides that really come fully prepared, mood boards, they know where they're getting married. So it really depends on you know, what type of person you are and how ready you are. And, you know, if we work together, things will flow very smoothly.
And I think you raise a good point. If we work together, and like you said, the planner, you know, bride or groom relationship is super important. It's someone's like big day.
Yeah.
It's very emotional. You said it earlier as well. It's an emotional process. So it's not just we're planning an event and, you know, that's all it is. It's a really big moment for everyone. Do you find it where that people come in with like their Pinterest boards and they have all these things set out and then they just have a completely different dress that comes out of it?
100%. I've had clients that came in, they're like, I want something super simple. I don't want embroidery. I don't want any embellishments. And they left with it like more or less like a fully embellished dress. And that's okay because we work together to get to the point. Because sometimes you would think, oh, a strapless dress looks better on me than a dress with straps. And you'd be surprised to see wedding dresses just are different. It's not like going and shopping for, you know, everyday clothes so I really advise brides to go early on, even before knowing where they're getting married, just to try on dresses for fun and get an idea of what looks good on them.
In 16 years of doing this, I could say more often than not, brides will always end up with a dress that's the opposite of what they came in wanting.
Really?
Almost every time.
Oh my God, that's
almost
so
every
interesting.
time. So we always say the same thing, just go, try everything. You get to do this. It's part of the process.
And it's also fun. I mean,
It's so fun.
It's a fun process as well.
It's really fun. I did it for myself and I was really surprised.
Were you surprised with your own wedding choice?
Yes.
Wedding dress choice?
I mean, I was surprised that I went with this strapless dress. Actually, I was like super against it, and I don't know, when I found the dress, it was strapless. I was like, I could have added straps, but I just kept it as is, and yeah.
It's interesting. Don't quit until you try it, literally.
Yeah.
So obviously, being in the Middle East, in the region, we have religious ceremonies that are really tied in with our weddings and our unions. You know, the ketbik tab, the niqab. So I want to know from both of you, how do you balance modernity and cultural traditions to create something that really is true to the couple and the families?
You know, I've worked with several brides who were really looking into Trousseau to help them style their religious like ceremonies, like the ketbik tab and the niqab, and they really wanted modern outfits. Maybe a few years ago, brides were in more like flowy long sleeve dresses during their ketbik tabs, but now it's more about like matching separate, whether it's a long skirt with a matching top or a nice two-piece, three-piece suit. It's becoming more and more modern, and the cool thing about it is that brands from all over, they've been accommodating more to our culture.
So true. I think that's also a bit on a bigger scale. I feel like modest fashion is very in now. On this side of the region, we're like, finally, we can have all the brands that we really love for people that want to dress more modestly in the region. So I love to see that that's a trend that you're also seeing as a...
It's one of my favorite things to style now, civil ceremonies and...
Is it?
Yeah, especially if a bride comes to me and she's so open, and you know, we could play a lot around with the accessories and the look. It's really, when I see civil ceremony or a religious ceremony, I'm excited.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What about you, Roula? Any experiences with balancing traditional...
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first of all, I don't think that tradition and modernity have to come in conflict with each other. I think, as Bana's saying, it's becoming more accessible to be modern and traditional at the same time. We did a wedding for a couple in Spain a few years ago, and they had done their ketbik tab back home with family, very intimate. A ketbik tab is a very intimate, behind closed doors, reserved for family and friends only. Mm-hmm. It's not really this like open forum. And they decided at their wedding in Spain that they were going to sort of redo their ketbik tab. And I think it was very cool to experience that. So, you know, this very traditional core part of marriage, but in a very modern take. And it was more than just this couple having a connection with their friends, but it was a cultural exchange. It was an understanding of, this is what happens. And we do the same, or we see the same at least, when we do Indian weddings, when we do Persian weddings, where we're trying to have the guests, the audience, understand the steps, why things are happening, kind of guide them through it a little bit,
Exactly.
see if there are ways that we can actually get them to participate.
And do you find that Get Big Tabs are becoming much more of like an event?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
For sure.
absolutely.
I feel like I've been seeing it a lot, that it's, like you said before, like Get Big Tab used to be just like something you do like really privately
Yeah.
with a sheikh, and it's done, and
there's
it's...
a secrecy to it almost. You know,
Yeah.
I think I've only attended one in my entire life.
Yeah,
so-
exactly. I think that's exactly to my next point. It's like, are you seeing a rise in bigger weddings? Like, is it going towards that sort of way, or do you find that people are still sticking true to those like intimate, smaller weddings?
Both, I would say.
Yeah,
Right?
I think the region we're in, big weddings are always going to be a thing. I think what we're seeing people lean more towards is the feeling of intimacy, even if it's a big wedding.
How do you create that?
How do you create that? With a good team. That's how you create that. But I think it's about feeling it's curated but not overdone. Simple things, you know, even, I mean, now, and I think this ties very much into you, Bana, we have this growing demand from our brides to create lookbooks for guests.
Yes.
It's more than just saying, oh, garden chic or summer pastels, but it's more about creating a visual guide, a lookbook. Also some details like, ladies, we're going to be on grass. We're going to be walking through gravel. We're going to be standing for a good portion of the night. Keep that in mind. Small things like, you know, personal details that you can include in a wedding. There's a handwritten note.
And I think, I mean, judging from my experience of attending events that you've curated, that is so true to your brand. Like, that is so exactly it. I find that, I mean, just shameless plug, I find Cherry on Top to be very, you know, thoughtful with these small details, and they matter. I think as a wedding guest, I mean, we've all been wedding guests.
Yeah.
Yes.
You remember these things.
Of course.
These
Yeah.
things that they matter. Like you said, very considered.
Yeah, I think for us what's very important here is we try to stay away from what I call like the plug and play weddings. Because I think weddings can be very generic. They can be beautiful, but they're very generic. And then you can just like remove the couple, put in another couple, and then that
It's the same
journey
thing,
is
yeah.
perfectly seamless. But there's no soul anymore. And I think having a soul, something that speaks to the couple, their family, their traditions, their religion, their belief, that's what you're like, oh my gosh, that's so Tamara, you know, that's so him.
And how do you achieve that? Does it take time to get to know the couple? Is it like a long process? Is it discussing with the couple, asking them certain questions? You know, how do we get to that stage where it feels like it has a soul, as you mentioned?
We have this thing when we onboard clients, and I call it the Cosmo Quiz. They are questions that if I was to ask you face to face, you'd be like, this is so weird. So we always send them questions. We ask the bride and groom to like fill them out separately and then send them back to us. But it just gives us insight to their personalities. Things, I think, I mean, I'm sure Bana will also agree to this. It's our job to connect the dots.
So it's a journey, or like a whole process.
It is.
You're working together for a long time. It's not like a couple of months. I have clients that I've been working with for almost a year now, and you know, you need to know for me, it's understanding their general shopping behavior, how they feel about, you know, what's their typical style. And that gives me insight to how they're going to be with me throughout the journey. Are they difficult with shopping? Do they not enjoy it? Do they enjoy it? Are they busy? Are they
Indecisive.
which brands do they like shopping in? Like, which websites? Which are your go-to websites? So I ask all of these questions to really understand their behavior when it's going to come to bridal shopping, because that's going to be a whole different thing, right?
I can
And
imagine. Let's talk about trends, because I want to know about what you guys are seeing in the space, in the wedding space, whether that's, you know, trends with styling and dressing. Like, how is that evolved over time, and what are you seeing now? What are some of the trends that you're seeing for this year, for next year?
So I would say one of the biggest trends that I've been seeing from a styling perspective is very specific dress codes at weddings. It's not anymore like garden chic, like you said, or beach chic. It's more like retro 60s beach party. So it's fun. It makes it more interesting for me it's a fun way to keep things exciting and different and not generic from wedding to wedding.
I think there's a lot of complaints probably from guests leading up to it, but then when they actually follow through it and they're there,
That's so true.
they love it and it's such a great time and they think that people's outfits are cool, and especially if you get a really good planner and you have that. I see that a lot with the dress codes and the themes, and it can be daunting, I think, for guests, but at the same time, when it comes to the actual day,
You appreciate it.
you love it.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my god, this is
I think
amazing,
so.
and it's a lot of fun. So I definitely see that.
What we see as trends, again, I don't like to follow necessarily trends. I think it's everybody sort of, the trend is maybe everybody doing what feels more aligned and more true to them and their families and their in-laws, etc., etc.
And.
All the disclaimers. But, you know, there's this crossover now between interiors, fashion, F&B, art, film. And like people are drawing inspiration from all of these things. And inspiration can really be like a scene in a movie. It can be a lyric from a song. It can be a collection from, you know, a designer or a season. So there's so many things that we can draw from. And I think it's about people thinking, oh, I can be creative here. I can tell my story. I have a vision. And it doesn't need to be, you know, white flowers and a seated dinner in a ballroom. It can be a bit more experimental and a bit more of an experience. There's a huge drive now towards minimalism, people being very minimalist, very chic, very like, you know, again, intentional, clean, thoughtful. But at the same time, I think like super maximalist as well, you know, like let's do the
extremes.
draping, let's do the bows, let's do the cake, the desserts, the coupes, the tiramisu, you know, like the flowers that cascade everywhere. So it's like one or the other. Color blocking, always a big thing. Making F&B like a very important part of F&B is a very entertaining part of it. It's not just you know, people sometimes think, oh, this is just standard. We have to eat at a wedding.
Yeah, I and then with wedding dresses, are you seeing something? I mean, I've seen a lot of drop waist bridals.
Yes,
bridal gowns.
it's been around for a few years now with the drop waist. But one thing I've been seeing from, you know, clients and brides, even the ones that I don't work with, but they're all looking for vintage or something very sustainable. A lot of brides also ask, do you think I can reuse this dress, repurpose it in some way? And I love vintage, and I think there is something super special when, you know, you wear a dress that's, you know, been around or
Has a story.
Exactly. So I love that.
I agree, and we touch on vintage on our podcast quite a bit, because for us in the region, I find that it's quite difficult to find good vintage pieces, whereas in the West you can find stores on the street and you can, you know, rummage through different places. So actually really interesting. How do you go about finding vintage dresses for your bride?
So there's a couple of stores in the US that have really amazing vintage dresses. So for now, that's
a source.
That's a very good source for me. But like you said, I would love to see, you know, if anyone's listening, anyone into vintage.
Very interesting. I mean, yeah, this is going to be really useful for anyone who's interested in bringing vintage to the region, because it's a need. It's a need, clearly. Yeah. Where do people start with budgets? Is it that what do you see normally? Do you see people like coming in with a specific budget and they end up with something completely different? Or how do you cater to people that have different budgets?
People always have a vision, and they're never sure of how much this vision is going to cost. I think one of the first things you have to do when you jump into wedding planning is get budget clarity. Obviously, you know, more often than not, people that, you know, are doing this for the first time, they don't have an idea of what things are supposed to cost. But there's always a psychological ceiling, a number over which you're like, I don't want to spend on this. So I think it's very important from the get-go to engage whether a planner, a venue, a vendor, just to sense check. And most planners, honestly, whether you formally engage with them or not, from an initial consultation, will be able to give you this information. If not a detailed budget breakdown, at least a range. To know, like, is your vision realistic? If it's not, do you have to make major pivots? Is it about downsizing your guest list? Is it about changing venues altogether? Is it about doubling the budget? Is it about maybe putting things on hold, reprioritizing? So I think this is really a conversation that needs to be had at the beginning.
And then also with bridal styling, because women, let's say, have multiple events that they want to attend. They want to get the accessories for it. They want to get the shoes for it, the bag for it. So how does that play into bridal styling and budgeting?
So from the very beginning, during our discovery call, I always ask, what's your budget? What's your budget? Are you looking for a ready-to-wear dress, bridal dress, or you're looking to have a fully custom-made dress? And then I kind of explain more of like the spectrum. Oh, if you're looking for something ready to wear, these are our options and these are the price points. And then if you're looking to create a dress from scratch, this is the budget.
There's like a frame.
Exactly. And then you have the in-between, which I think is, the best way to go is the semi-custom. Finding a dress that already exists and making minor changes to it. And it's not for everyone. It's a very tedious, long process. It's very stressful. So I would say if you really have the patience for it, go for it, and I'll hold your hand through it and we'll do it together. But if not...
How soon or how long do people need to plan a bridal gown, bridal outfits, and a wedding? Like, how much time should people give you?
Starting very early and starting too late, I think it's as bad. Like,
really?
Absolutely.
Really? Okay, interesting.
Just starting too early, your vision might change. You might be exposed to so much, especially if you're doing, let's say, your wedding at the end of summer and there was 15 weddings ahead of you that you attended, so on social media. I feel like, it's easier to change your mind or have second thoughts or get cold feet if you start very early. So I think there's like a nice sweet spot, which start your journey maybe at 8 to 9 months.
I think that timeline very much ties into the way we also look at wedding planning. I think 8 to 12 months is our sweet spot. I think anything less than, sort of 6 to 8 months, you run the risk of making choices because that's the only thing that's available, and not making choices because that's actually what you want or it was your first choice.
Both of you obviously have a client list that, spans across the region, but then also international clients. So I want to understand a bit more about how they differ. So, what are clients like in the region and weddings in the region versus weddings abroad? Like, what are the differences that you see between here and there?
First, if we talk regionally, I think we had touched on this earlier, but there are quite a few stakeholders that are involved in a wedding planning process here, whether it's in-laws, siblings, cousins, friends. There's always multiple opinions that we need to consider. And I think one of the things we always say to clients at the beginning is decide who the decision maker is. It might not be them. It might be their parents. They might be happy to hand it over to someone else, a maid of honor, etc. But let us know who the decision maker is and let us know who the stakeholders are, because a lot of times we do find ourselves in this tug of war between, I want this, but don't tell her we said this, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, who does our loyalty lie with? It's always with the couple, though. It's always with the couple. But I think when we look at regional weddings, there tends to be a lot more of this involvement.
Really interesting. What about you, Bana? Have you seen a difference between the region versus abroad?
Yeah, of course. I would say that with the wedding dress and the wedding wardrobe in general, in the region, there's a lot of emphasis on it. It's a very, very, very important.
And that's really interesting because I now being a bride myself, I'm thinking about every single step. Like, I want to make sure I have an outfit for every single moment, because I feel like, especially now with the rise of social media and just how you want to feel on the day, you just want to feel, you want to create an emotion that is so different to your everyday, right? Because everything is so accessible now. What makes this day different to other days of your life? It's those little small details. It's that feeling of I'm in something new. I'm in something that makes me feel like I'm a bride. It's not just an event. It's the memory that you cherish forever.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Cheesy,
I think if done right, that's the whole point. It's not an event. It's really a story and a memory that people get to carry on.
What are some common mistakes that people should avoid?
I mentioned this before. It's the whole starting way too early and changing your mind, and I find that to be one of the most most common mistakes, as well as the custom. It's not for everyone. Assign one person or two, like your mom, your sister, or your best friend, and that's it. Do not share your pictures or the dress that you might go for or too many people, because you're gonna get so many opinions. It's gonna throw you off. So choose two people that you trust, and that's it.
What are some common mistakes?
I think people not having a plan B specifically for outdoor weddings. Weather contingencies are so important. Everyone loves an outdoor wedding. We love an outdoor wedding. I mean, especially when we're doing destination events and we get to work in these amazing spaces. The weather is not something that any of us can control. And I think it's very important to have a plan B in place, or to at least have really mapped out what does plan B look like, and what are the budget implications of plan B, and what are the aesthetic implications. How are we going to have to change things and pivot and move things around? But they're like, it's not going to rain on our wedding. It's not. And I'm like, you know,
There's like we've manifested it.
Like, I hope so. I hope you manifest always the way you want. But yeah, we had one couple. We did a wedding in Maui in Hawaii. And there was a hurricane, an actual hurricane, where it was an amber alert, and it was like stay in place or stay indoors, whatever the warning is. And like we had to move everything from this beautiful, it was a UNESCO heritage site. It's like a sugar mill. We had to move it inside to this like really awful conference center.
Oh my goodness.
And they were just like adamant in the lead up. They were like, no. And we're like, let's think about a marquee. Let's think about a tent. Let's think about an alternative venue. And they were like, no. And we could have done so much more if we were in this conference, even if we were in the conference center, had we planned for it. So it's always, like, I know we don't want to think about it, but an outdoor wedding brings a lot of headache and a lot of heartache. Minimize that.
Yeah, and do you find that people don't do a plan B because they're worried about budget, or they feel like
it's two-part? It's budget, and it's like we don't want to put that energy out there, but then like sometimes it's work. Like sometimes we've had this weddings where we're like, oh, it's gonna rain, you know what, pivot, let's get umbrellas for everybody. And then we have these like amazing pictures now of the couple and all their friends coming out of church and these like super cool umbrellas, and it almost made the moment. We couldn't have done it any other way.
You can't plan for these things.
You can't
right?
plan for these things.
Can you share with us any horror stories with couples that you've dealt with that were particularly difficult?
Nayla and I always say that we're going to write a book when we're done.
I think you should.
When we are ready to round up cherry on top and wrap it all up, we're going to come out with a book. Until then, some stories cannot be...
I feel like if they ever listen to this,
they'll be
shared.
Like, they're going to know it's
us.
Look, I think we get to be part of a very vulnerable part of people's lives, whether it's family dynamics or having these like really awful conversations about budget or just like really high emotions. Because it's a big occasion, it's a big milestone, lots of stress. We get to be privy to that, and sometimes it's a privilege. And it's part of what we do. But, we get to see people not in their best light sometimes.
So are there any favorite moments, experiences, couples, brides that you've worked with that you can share?
I think one of our favorite moments, like hands down, like one of my favorite weddings to date was a wedding that we did in Goa. And it was actually really great because the couple, the bride was Lebanese, the groom was Jordanian actually. And they decided to get married in Goa. And so it was like completely like out of left field for them. And we wanted to really create this like carnival feel for like 3 days. Like people were coming to a festival. So all of this to say, Goa, if you've ever been, is really well known for its flea markets. So we turned the tennis court into a flea market.
Wow.
So we had all of these guys come and set up shop. We had some food vendors. They were selling like the crushed ice and the candy floss and the popcorn. But then we had the people who were making bangles and bags. And so as part of the welcome gift, we gave everybody a tote bag that was branded. And we told them to bring it to the flea market. And then they got to go around and just... So that was like one of our favorite moments where we're like, you still got to experience one of the really sort of like cultural moments that Goa had to offer. And just working there in general, so much texture, color, it's very layered, very dynamic. So I think that for us was a very exciting one of our favorite weddings to date. They're all favorites. But this one was one of the ones that stands out.
I like that, and I think that really touches on what you said earlier, which is like bringing in personal touches, cultural elements from the place that you're getting married, not just from the couple.
Of course, you lean into where you are, 100%. Lean into where you are.
That's good advice. What about you, Bana? Any favorite experiences or moments?
I have a client who just got married in July, and we worked together. We started working together in January, and we were brainstorming. There were two different types of silhouettes that she wanted to go for, and we were very indecisive between the two. And we kind of, the journey that we had together was really nice. Like I said, from mood boards to sending her off to different brands to try on, the different silhouettes. And then we ended up landing on a beautiful, the drop waist silhouette, which looked amazing on her. Our whole journey together kind of helped her go off on her own. And she ended up finding the designer that resonated with her the most and created that dress that we've been talking about for 6 months.
Aww.
So I would say this is the most recent one that I really enjoyed working on.
Okay, I want to know what you should splurge on versus what you should save on, both in wedding gowns and accessories and also in planning the wedding itself.
I think for me, one of the biggest things that you like really need to focus on and splurge, photography and videography.
Really?
Super, 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 super important. At the end of the day, after everything is said and done, after all the decisions are made and the tears are cried and the cake is eaten and the money is spent, all you have is the photography, videography moment. I think it's very important to do your research, find a team whose vision and style suits you and what your expectations are. And I think it's not necessarily about, when I say splurge, it's not like spend the most amount of money, but it's prioritize your budget so that a good chunk is going towards that. And that could be, again, different like budget price points. Like you could have a full feature film, you can have a 60-second reel or a 3 to 5 minute highlight. You can find something that works for you, but it's so important to spend on this because this is your only takeaway. You don't get to redo it. And another place that I think people should spend, and I know this comes as a surprise, is sound and light. I think it's so important. And people never get that because it's not a tangible, like you can't see, it's like flowers, you're like, okay, I get it, this versus that. Sound and light can create an atmosphere. If you have good sound, you can enjoy the music, you can hear the speeches, you can be moved emotionally by that. Lighting is all about creating a mood. It's about showing your dress off, showing the decor, showing the flowers that you've spent so long mulling over. I think when sound and light's done well, you don't notice it. And that's why it's not usually top of mind.
Yeah.
And when it's done bad, it's all you can think of. Like, oh, there was so much feedback. I didn't hear the speeches. I missed them all. The light was in my eyes. Oh, can someone turn that off?
Something I noticed is so true, especially with the lighting. When I'm at a guest and I take photos of my friends and myself, I notice I'm like, oh, why are we all like so dark? Like, why are we so purple or why are we so pink? And I'm like, it's so true.
Yeah, you don't want your food or your guests to look like it's green or blue or purple or changing colors throughout. So I think it's really something that I think people overlook. So those are my two like splurge moments. And I think save on anything print. Anything that's print, it's wasteful. It's really not worth it, especially printed invitations. There's no need for that anymore, especially in today's world, I think.
Are you seeing, though, the rise of different invitations? I've noticed there was a creator that had a bread invitation. Wow. So they would send bread to their guests, and on the bread was imprinted their
And that's,
wedding.
again, for me, something that evokes a moment. It evokes a feeling. I'm like, oh, this is such a cool piece of bread. I saw that one, too. It's created something. Even printed menus. I think, we can do communal menus, a cool installation, a board, something where print can just disappear. Another one, and I don't know how people feel about this, but it's wedding favors. I am really, really, really not a fan of wedding favors.
I am too. I'm not a fan of it either.
Unless it's practical or something you can eat on the spot.
Yeah.
I don't think you should have wedding favors. As much as I love you, I don't want to go home with a candle that has your name on it or a frame that has your picture. It's going to be in a box, in a drawer, in a cupboard, somewhere in the house. It's going to gather dust. It needs to be practical, especially if we're talking about, women come to weddings more often than not with these tiny little bags, and then I have this big box and I'm like, what am I going to do with it? And then it's on the table and then I have to put it on the floor, and then it creates a lot of chaos. It's something that you have to carry back. For destination weddings, it's also like beautiful, but when people give you oil or vinegar and you're like, great, but I have to travel now and I have to put this in my suitcase. I don't want to do that. So I really think it needs to be something that's practical, or as I said, like edible on the spot. But I would much rather take that budget and create little experiences throughout the wedding, whether it's disposable cameras, people can feel a little bit of that analog moment, a cool, I don't know, a guest book journey or something, rather than in a gift that
may or not be taken from the table.
exactly may or may not be taken as well.
But it's true, because I noticed that sometimes wedding favors aren't appreciated as much as you put the intention to, right? But what are your thoughts on that?
I like receiving wedding favors, and I enjoyed gifting.
Yes.
But again, like you said, I wasn't thinking about, because I gifted like a box that had soaps and, you know, stuff from Jordan, that
Which is true to your culture, which is actually beautiful.
because we had a lot of guests
From
flying
abroad.
in from abroad, because my husband is Belgian, so we had a big mix of cultures. So I wanted to share something to add to like their Jordanian experience. But I do get it. If we had like oil or like something that's liquidy, it might, you know, open up in the suitcase.
And I just want to say, but I think this is a beautiful, very thoughtful gift. That's again where I say it's thoughtful and it's done with intention.
Yes.
It's not just like we need to give a gift and so
for
this is
sure.
what you get.
No, for
yeah.
sure.
But it's really interesting. So, Bana, what would you spend on and save on?
I would spend on shoes.
Interesting, shoes.
I'm not saying the more expensive, the more comfortable, but I'm saying, you know, be flexible with shoes. If you find something a bit more comfortable but a bit more expensive, it's okay, put that in, because you're going to be dancing, you're going to be standing, you're going to be walking around, you know, the whole day, the whole night. I think
Shoes.
you
I would
should-
have never thought
yeah.
shoes.
Yeah.
Any brands that you think would be worth looking into?
I like Aquazzura and Gianvito Rossi, to be honest.
Yeah,
I like those two a
You find
lot.
them to be comfortable.
Aquazzura has really nice ones with, you know, a chunky platform from the front. But with that being said, the shoe's not really going to show if you're wearing a long dress. So also be flexible, because I see brides being very specific. No, I want this, and I can't find that in this color. I'm like, no one's really going to see the shoe unless you're going to change to a shorter dress. And so be flexible with that.
What would you guys say in your experience of dealing with brides, grooms, weddings is a request that you received that was so unusual or unexpected or interesting that you can share?
No, I wouldn't say it was unusual, but I found it very interesting. I had a bride that, for one of her pre-events, it was like a hat party. So
That is unusual.
Yeah, it was
That's really fun.
Yeah, it was.
Like everyone wore hats?
Yes.
I think it's
any
common.
type of hat that you want. Like it could be funky,
Oh.
not necessarily like bridal looking. Anything.
So
that,
not like fascinets, like in the British culture.
No. It could have been any type of, I would say, headpiece / hat.
Love.
Yes.
That's really fun, actually.
Yeah. It resonated with the bride and groom, so I thought it was special.
Love that.
That's
I
very
love that.
cool. I think for us, we had a wedding that happened a few years ago in Greece. And very early on in the process, the bride had said something to the effect of like, I've always wanted to get married on water. And we were like, okay, you know, this is like us getting to know each other and like trying to understand the
Yeah.
vision in the process. Ultimately, we landed on a beach venue in Spetses. And so we were going to build a platform that was half on the beach and a little bit of it kind of going into the water. And so we're like, oh, cool, she's getting married on water. But I think like visually for us, we're like, no, she's not getting married on water. So what we decided to do sort of last minute was cut out a platform in the middle of the deck and cover it with plexi, which is where they were going to have their ceremony. So as they were actually saying their vows, they were on water.
Actually
Wow,
on water.
that's
And she
super
got
cool.
to see it. So that for us was a very cool moment. It wasn't necessarily an outlandish request from her. She had just kind of said it in passing. And I think it's something that stuck. And we were like, wait, can we make this magic happen?
I love that. That's really cool.
So that was, a very cool sort of full circle moment for us. But then, I mean, we have gotten these really outlandish requests, you know, where one bride asked if she could have live peacocks at the wedding. You know, like we get these crazy requests sometimes. And I think for us, it's like, oh yeah, you know, dream big, but also
Hone
maybe
in.
this is where we're going to rein you in a little bit. So it's a
100%.
kind of like maintaining that balance between, okay, this is realistic.
Yeah.
But then also holding your composure.
Yeah.
And just like dealing with these egos and personalities, it's like Thank you so much for your ideas.
Yeah, they're
not
all valuable.
happening.
and
Valuable
valid.
ideas, but not really the approach.
Yeah,
that
not so
we're
much
gonna-
in line with what we're looking for.
Not realistic.
Yeah, so we get a lot of those, which we kind of have to I think a big part of our job is being very diplomatic and being like, oh, okay, we see you,
Yeah.
but we're not going to do this.
See you.
We see you, we hear you, but no.
But no. Okay, guys, closing off the end of the podcast. Unfortunately, I feel like I could talk to you guys for hours about all things wedding.
Same.
But what is something that you should give our listeners, someone that's listening to this and is like just starting their wedding journey or in the middle of their wedding journey, and just like advice for people that you would leave them with?
Be authentic. Be authentic. Don't have other people's opinions kind of at the back of your head all the time. Enjoy the process. It's supposed to be fun. You're marrying your soulmate, your partner, the person you've picked. Like, have fun with it. Work with people that you trust. As Bana said, like, you're working with people from 6 months to a year, sometimes even longer. Make sure there's chemistry. Interview that person before you guys commit. Despite their resume and their background and their experience, you have to be in contact with them almost daily. You want to make sure there's a chemistry there. You're not going to hate the process. So make sure you have the right team around you, and then trust them to guide you in the right steps. They've done this before many, many times.
I think that's really fair, because it's so true that you need to, like you said, long term. It's not an overnight thing. It's a long-term commitment. Really good advice. What about you, Bana?
I would say always keep an open mind. You might start with an idea, end up with something else. So be flexible, be open. Trust who you're working with. I'm here to make, your life easier. I'm taking away a whole layer of stress. So really trust the process. It's okay if we pivot, if we change, and be patient.
I think saying it's okay to pivot is such a big one. It's okay to pivot. Everyone's like, oh, we're changing. You're not. You're just pivoting.
Yeah.
There's reasons why things like need to move in a different way,
Exactly.
and sometimes it's for the better.
Really good advice to me, especially as well, because I'm like in that process. I'm in that mindset. I'm like, okay, I gotta be okay to pivot. It's okay to pivot.
okay.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on our first SheerLuxe edition, wedding edition podcast.
Thank you. That was so fun.
It was so
Thank
fun
you.
to learn from you guys, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. So thank you for
having
joining us.
Thank you.
If you liked today's episode, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.